Hello, listeners of KRNU2. Welcome to a new year and a new episode of the Second String on a new time. So a lot of news.
New day, same time, Nate. New day, same time.
Okay, yeah, new time. Sorry, new day, same time, exactly.
We coming at you fresh early in the week now. Monday night, 7 o'clock.
24 hours earlier than you usually get us.
Oh, I know. Y'all got to be excited about that.
Hopefully, if you're the same listeners. I appreciate you listening to KRNU2 at approximately the same time every day. You know, some dedication.
If we got some new listeners, welcome to the Second String, your best source for college football. We're going to extend to some more NFL, even NBA news.
General sporting news.
Your best sports radio show.
On the campus of UNL. I'm your host, Nate Muehlbach. Joining me today is my wonderful co-host, Alex Fernando. How are you doing today, Alex?
Fantastic. So happy to be back in the booth, get our show rolling again. Another semester.
I'm happy.
Oh, it's, man.
Years are winding down.
Yeah, that's time's coming to an end.
That's
here,
for
but,
dang
hey, we got a
sure.
whole semester to enjoy it. It's only January, nice and cold out, so we got time.
Yeah, it's best to be in here and inside wherever you are. I hope you're not listening to this outside. If you are, get inside. But enough about the weather. Let's talk about some sports. We have a busy day, or busy night, busy hour coming up for you. What we're going to start with is the very extremely obvious national championship that just happened last weekend.
1 week ago tonight.
1 week
we had
ago
the party
tonight.
last week.
Yeah, we watched Alabama take
We
the...
watched Georgia crumble.
Yes, it was interesting. We'll talk about that. We'll go into a deep discussion.
I got a rant ready. We're good.
All right. Then we're going to go into some stuff. We're going to talk about the bowl season in its entirety. We're going to talk the NFL. We might talk some NBA. We don't quite know yet.
College football season.
Just general
recap,
thoughts on the
yeah.
college football season.
Some new coaching hires already.
New coaching, exactly.
extended
Maybe some
in.
Nebraska recruiting.
Oh, yeah.
We got a lot to talk about, so let's not waste any more time. Let us get into the college football playoff national championship.
The All-SEC National Championship. Oh, my goodness, Nate. Bama, Roll Tide, Georgia Bulldogs. The matchup that everybody expected to see in the SEC Championship didn't quite happen with Auburn pulling the upset on Bama, so we get Alabama and Georgia in the National Championship. Great game.
It was fantastic. In a lot of ways I wasn't expecting. And Alabama did pull away 26-23. It's very...
In overtime.
In overtime. It was, yeah, like you said, it was a very, very exciting, jam-packed game. You know, Georgia sprung up to that quick lead at halftime. Was it 17-3?
13-0.
13-0. I thought it was 17-3.
Scoreless in the first half. But a lot of defense in the first half. Offense didn't quite get going until the second half for both teams, really.
Okay.
Georgia's had a couple capitalization plays, and the biggest story, Bama switching the quarterback. What'd you think about that?
It was a great move.
Incredible move.
One of the moves that makes you really look at Nick Saban. Now I know it's really passé to be like, oh, he's the greatest coach of all time. He's one of the greatest coaches of all time. But having the guts to go in and say, Jalen Hurts, he's not going to win us the game. We need to roll the dice on our freshman. His first
Tagovailoa.
Tavaloa. Tua.
He's Tua.
You know, to have the guts as a coach to say, no, our starter's not going to get it done. We're not going to win the game if he continues to play like that. We have to put in a new guy. And what a guy he was. Now, Tua was a very, very highly rated prospect. And an underrated fact from this game is that Jake Fromm was originally committed to Alabama. And when he switched and flipped to Georgia, Kirby Smart flipped him to Georgia. The quarterback they got to replace him in the class was Tua. And that's such a crazy...
How come these guys get all the quarterbacks?
I don't know.
What is it? I mean, Jake Fromm, he's a freshman. He took over for the injured Jacob Eason at the beginning of the season. Jacob Eason's only a sophomore. Jalen Hurts is only a sophomore. Both these two guys who were playing in the game are freshmen.
Yeah.
True freshmen.
I don't quite know. I mean, you'd have to think a sustained period of success will do that to you. Southern recruiting beds.
It's just
talent.
insane, the youth of these quarterbacks. I mean, you're talking about two true freshmen. They were in high school last year, Nate. Two true freshmen in the national championship game.
The SEC in general is just very young quarterback-wise. You think of Nick Fitzgerald, Jake Bentley, sophomore. It's Shea Patterson, who transferred, but he was a freshman or sophomore. I mean,
Yeah.
The SEC in general just has a lot of talent, and that's what gets you when you just have a sustained period of success like they do as a conference. And Tua was just amazing. 14 for 24, 166 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had that costly pick that I thought was going to sink them the game, except Georgia threw that, busted play. Weird stuff happens in games like this. And
Yeah, but I mean, you're right though. He came in not expecting to, all season long. It's Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is the guy. Can he win it with his arms? Bama's gonna have enough of a run game to let him pass when he needs to, but be okay.
Yeah.
Georgia shut that down. They're making Jalen Hurts throw the ball. Hurts is not getting it done.
Yeah, I mean, he was 3 for 8 for 21 yards in the first half.
Exactly.
That's crazy bad.
And to be fair, they didn't try to pass a lot with him. Again,
No.
he only had 8 attempts. They tried to run the ball with him and their running backs, and Georgia contained all of it. So I don't know if they just really wanted to open up the passing, and they felt Tua was better for that. But they put in Tua. This true freshman comes in. He's like, I got to go against one of the best defenses in the nation to win the title.
No problem.
No problem. Why not? But I thought when he got in there, really simplified the offense. Because with Jalen Hurts, I always thought they tried to
do too much?
Do too much with the run game.
Really?
It's you wouldn't think about it, but if you look down into the details of it, I just remember watching the game. They'd try with Scarborough. They'd try read options with Scarborough and Hurts. They'd try with Harris. They'd bring in that third guy.
Najee Harris?
Yeah, Najee Harris. He actually led the team in rushing.
Yeah, no, they went with him and Tua.
Yeah.
They just said, we're just going to give this to our backups.
The young guys,
take
them over.
They're going to have to win the game for us because some of these older guys aren't going to get it done, and both of them did. Najee Harris, who I think is a sophomore this year, Tua, who's a freshman, he
pretty sure Najee's a freshman.
Is he a freshman? I thought he was a sophomore.
Yeah, no, because I remember leading passer, leading rusher, and leading receiver for Bama were all freshmen.
And that's pretty crazy indeed. That's just a lot of offensive youth for a team that's always been thought to. I mean, the leading narrative into beating Bama is you got to shut down their offense. You said, okay, their defense it's gonna crush you, but you just got to stop their offense, which has never been
you'll
great.
You'll get a couple shots if you're able to stop their offense. That's gonna win that field position game.
Yeah.
If you win the field position game, you'll get a couple points here and there. That'll build up to a lead.
Yeah, but what everybody always said was attack Bama's offense. Their quarterbacks are not good. Mostly not really a lie, but you think of Blake Sims, you think of McElroy. A lot of conventional wisdom says these guys are not, air it out, explosive quarterbacks. You need to shut them down. And that was a bit of a lie. It was a bit of a misconception because both those players were pretty good when it came down to it.
Fromm's numbers don't necessarily reflect how well he played.
He did play really
so many drops. One of the picks was even a drop.
Yeah.
Like a bounce off the guy's hands or something like that.
It wasn't a bounce off the guy's head. It hit off a guy's helmet.
That's right, yeah.
That's what happened.
So, I mean, a tip ball there. I mean, was it number 5 or number 8?
Number 8.
Number 8, yeah. Dude had 8 drops, not 8 drops, but he had at least 4 or 5 drops that I saw. Their top 3 receivers all had really bad drops, really early in the game. Number 6, that's who it was. I'm looking at the roster here, but just, again, a lot of drops, not a lot of help for him. They couldn't get a ton going in the run game. Michelle looked the best. Nick Chubb had nothing going on.
Michelle looked really good. It was on the level where I wondered why he wasn't the featured back for most of the year. I know they switched. It was pretty close to 50-50 the entire year.
Javon Wims.
For both of them.
The wide receiver.
Yeah, he only had one catch for 16 yards.
Yeah, senior wide receiver. He had at least 4 drops that I remember.
I recall that as well.
And he was the one. It did go through his hands, and Bama caught it. That was the first interception.
The first interception?
Yeah.
Okay,
so both of them interceptions probably could have been nullified had better drops. Okay, the helmet one's kind of tough just because that was in the pocket, but I don't think Fromm's stats reflect how well he played in this game.
I thought he did play really well.
He kept Georgia. He had them with the lead. He had their offense moving for the most part against a very tough defense. In the end, I think, again, those drops hurt him, And then poor
secondary play down the stretch is my second
Oh yeah,
point.
that's where my rant is.
Okay, all right.
I know
Give me
it sounds like I just went on a rant, but number 24, the safety for Georgia. I'm gonna look up his name right now, but dude was making me mad all second half.
He was blowing coverages left and right.
Blowing coverages and tackling. His tackling was horrible. If it was like a 3rd and 4, he'd run up to the first down line, stand there, and then wait for Tua or the running back to knock him 2 yards over the line as he tackled them.
Looked like Darrell Revis against the Titans a few weeks ago.
He was at the line. He was ready to tackle them, and then he stops and waits for them.
I remember there were a few plays where Scarborough or Harris would just absolutely bowl him over for 2 or 3 more extra yards. You're incredibly correct. He was the one who blew the final play. And, it's always tough to look at the final play and say, oh, it's this guy's fault. It's his fault. The entire game hinged on this play. It wasn't not
the entire
his fault,
game by any means.
But
again, you gotta play smarter. And if your coverage is a cover 2, the final play, you don't drift to the other side. You have another safety there for a reason.
Yeah.
You don't follow that quarterback. You go to your zone.
Yes, that's the point of playing zone, is you need to trust in the other players to cover their own specific areas.
Yep.
And he drifted a
little too much.
He drifted a little too much, and I think who got it? Was it Smith?
Yep.
It was his only reception of the
He led the team in yards receiving.
41. I think. I mean that speaks to how poor Alabama's passing game.
Dominic Sanders, safety, senior.
It's a rough game for them to go out on. I know a lot of the Georgia people were very, very emotional. I mean, Sony Michel, I should say. I keep getting his name mispronounced. Sony Michel, I know he had a tweet that was really depressing to read afterwards.
That's got to be tough. That's a tough loss. You had the lead, you had it ready. Bama comes back, outscores you 10-0 in the 4th quarter. And you take it to overtime.
I mean, they should have lost in regulation.
They should have.
Their kicker blew probably one of the easiest field goals I've ever seen.
Hey, the pressure's tough there.
It's a hard kick to make in any situation, and I'm not going to act like I could have gone out there and made it, but it was like a 30-yard kick.
You're right. Yeah, I mean, if you're a top collegiate kicker, you should be able to make these kind of things. Again, tough loss for Georgia. Big win for Alabama, solidifying a little more of their dynasty and stuff. But I think the big question that everybody wants to know, Nate, who's the real national champion? Who's the real national championship, Nate? Because there's 2 teams with the national title in 2017, according to my count.
Okay. Lay it on me. Who's the second one?
Well, we got Bama, college football playoff national champion. And then we got the good old fighting Scott Frost down in Central Florida, claiming a national championship for the 2017 13-0 undefeated season. They don't care what anybody else thinks. They're national champs.
To tell you the truth about this UCF national championship business, I love it. I love every second of it.
So do I. This is best decision made all season by any team.
I love it.
This is great.
The amount of Georgia fans, the amount of Alabama fans who got their knickers in a twist over this.
Knickers in a twist.
I wanted to
start 2018 with knickers in a twist.
Stop. I wanted to put it mildly. I was going to say something else, but I decided to go with a different.
They got all riled up. All right?
They got all riled up about it. Okay, you're right. That's a way better analogy. But they got all riled up about it, and the amount and passion and fervor I saw on social media was unparalleled. It was revulsion, and honestly, and I know this sounds weird coming from a fan of a sort of a blue chip program of sorts. I kind of don't think we are very much anymore.
We're downgraded at the moment, but
sometimes it feels college football is a really, really, really big rich man's game is kind of what I want to say.
Money talks.
Money talks, big programs talk. And I think anything a small program that's sort of locked off can do what it can to rock the boat. I celebrate them doing that. I saw a lot of people saying, oh, UCF, you're not going to do anything. You're not changing anything. And my argument against that is, what do they have to gain if they don't do it? I mean, it's the same adage as like, okay, maybe claiming a national championship doesn't get you anything, but sitting there like the good G5 program will be guaranteed to not get you anything.
Very true.
Like, their situation's the same anyway. The way the playoff committee is structured is to keep teams like them out of the playoffs. And unfortunately, that's a reality that's more and more and more apparent every single year. And for a team like UCF, you have to make noises like this. There's just no other way. And this is my rant.
No, go for it.
But
I agree with everything you're saying here.
But for teams like UCF, like I said before, the playoff is designed to keep them out. And I don't know about you, or I don't know about any of our listeners, but I feel that is a fundamental flaw of the college football model. If 48 or more, I think a little, maybe like 48, about 48 teams in this 128 team playoff, the FBS bracket is fundamentally locked off from the postseason before the season even starts, that is a critical flaw in the entire system. No other league does that. Imagine if in the NBA they just said, "Yeah, the Lakers, you're too bad. You're not going to be able to make the playoffs."
Preseason.
Yeah, preseason.
That's a good point.
If the NFL said, "You know what, Cleveland, I know you're probably going to be bad anyway, but even if you do go 16-0, we're not going to put you in the playoffs." That's absurd.
Or like March Madness, like all those small schools that jump in. A few years ago, Lehigh over Duke. Lehigh, no, your name says it all. You can't come in this tournament.
Yeah,
but they upset Duke a few years ago. I mean,
it's nuts. It's crazy. Why is college football the only major sport to lock teams out of potential playoffs like this? And I know what the solution is. Everybody knows it all along. It's an 8-team playoff.
You're not entirely wrong with the 18 playoff, but the bigger issue is something that I think the great Scott Frost can't wait for. He's so happy he's back on campus now. He's ready for the Huskers. But an issue that he brought up, I think, is more critical than just the sheer number of teams.
Okay.
And that is the objectivity or lack thereof with the playoff committee. When you had the BCS, it didn't care what the brand name was. It didn't care what the legacy of the team was. If they were undefeated, they had all the numbers, they were winning their games, they'd be in the BCS games. They'd be in those big games, potentially even the BCS championship.
I don't 100% agree or disagree with you, mostly because I don't think the BCS could accurately pick a G5 team to be in the playoffs anyway.
So that's where I'm getting to my point here. I'm not saying the BCS was perfect. Obviously, there was flaws with the BCS, and that's why we switched to the playoff. But there's also flaws with the playoff, which is why people call for more playoff games, things like that. First of all, from a fan standpoint, nobody will ever be upset with more college football games.
No.
I would be off. I would love it. As a college football fan, best thing in the world. As someone who is very good friends with a lot of these players, and you know this too, we know these guys.
Yeah.
Try to add another week of preparation, another game into their schedule.
For 2 teams.
Still,
2 teams, man.
If that's your team, these guys are student athletes. They're busy. They have to go through school. They have to study, go to class. Then they have to go play football all day. They have to prep all week. Again, as a fan, this is awesome. If I were playing and I was one of these teams, yes, great opportunity, yes, national championship, awesome. Their bodies are going to wear down.
I kind of don't want to bring up the sham of the student athlete conversation. We're not getting into that.
That can be that's going to be later this semester. We can talk about that. But again, going back to my point, the BCS wasn't entirely perfect.
No.
The playoff committee isn't entirely perfect. You can't throw 13 people into a room and say, pick the best 4 teams, but also remember that these brands have the most money.
And that's just human bias. Everybody thinks like that. Everybody says, Oh, UCF, they went 13-0. They were dominant. They had the best offense in the nation, but is
lower conference, weaker schedule. I would argue that at least 3 or 4 of their conference, or their 3 or 4 of the teams that they played could beat a few of Alabama's opponents. Vanderbilt, you put Memphis or South Florida against Vanderbilt, I guarantee you South Florida or Memphis is coming away with that. Tennessee, that's definitely coming to Memphis and South Florida. So with UCF having, a weaker conference schedule, but compared to Alabama's schedule, it's still not that terrible. I mean, Bama didn't have a very good schedule. They didn't play a lot of good teams. And
No.
the bigger thing is there was one team that beat Georgia, and there was one team that beat Alabama. That's Auburn.
Yeah.
There's a few teams that beat Auburn, but there's one that really significantly beat Auburn.
Yes.
UCF in the bowl game.
Yes. And it's tough to look postscript after the fact and say, oh, yeah, these guys should have definitely been in the playoffs because of X.
Well, the committee came out and said, oh, we still don't think they should be in the playoffs. They're still not the right kind of team to be in the playoffs. They don't. It's all schedule-wise.
If UCF wasn't good enough to be in the playoffs, no team is good enough to be in the playoffs, and that's just the unfortunate reality.
Yeah. So that's why I think, again, I'm not saying that 8 teams is necessarily wrong, but before you decide on 8 teams or 4 teams or 16 teams or whatever, you need to have some sort of objective way to pick these teams a little bit better.
I don't think that I kind of don't think that's possible, in all honesty.
I don't know if you combine computer system like BCS did and a little bit of playoff committee, or
the solution is simple. It's an 8-team playoff with automatic bids for conference championships.
So do you put all group of 5? Do you take the 3 top conference champions and put them in?
No, it's
after the Power 5.
It's the 5 Power 5 conferences, the one group of 5 with the one group of 5 conference champion who's the highest ranked, and 2 at-large teams.
It could work, but again, it counters your point that you made earlier with saying that the big flaw is that you cut out all these teams right away.
I'm not saying that you're...
If you cut out all the other Power 5 just because there's only one Power 5 conference that matters that year, or one team in the Power 5 you think can beat all the other Power 5, or group of 5?
I said it was a travesty that all the G5 conferences got automatically eliminated.
But you're automatically eliminating 4 of them by saying there's
not.
only one of them that can make it.
If San Diego State goes 13-0, they should be in the playoffs, over, with UCF. That's what the at-large bids are for.
What if San Diego State and UCF were both undefeated this year?
Then they both should go to the playoffs, in an 18 playoff. That's why there are 2 at-large bids.
And you're gonna put you think the committee is gonna put a at-large San Diego State over a 2-loss conference champion Ohio State, a 1-loss conference loser Wisconsin, a 2-loss conference loser Miami, or USC, 2-loss conference champion.
Well, they would automatically get a bowl bid, or championship bid, but
Okay, yeah, Ohio State and USC, but Stanford.
Yes, they should get a shot over Stanford.
Okay, San Diego State beat Stanford this year, I guess. So that technically would have Wisconsin. You would have put a 1-loss San Diego State, or an undefeated San Diego State over Wisconsin as an at-large.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
You were hyping Wisconsin before the.
That's for the current model, man. I'm talking about my model.
Your model's so fiction, like we can't even read it yet. It doesn't make sense.
Whatever, man.
Again,
I think
I think you're right. There's not necessarily an exact way to do this or have a solution, but trying to look for some way to make an objective decision on what teams go in, that should be the primary focus rather than just an 18 playoff, because it's clear that UCF can hang with these teams.
Yeah.
Auburn is not a bad football program by any means.
No.
UCF is not a bad football program just because they're in a lower conference. Mackenzie Milton, sophomore quarterback, led the nation in so many categories, or was close to it behind Baker Mayfield, a Heisman winner. Their defense, not the best statistically, like giving up points and yards wise, but they make plays. Yes, they have those big, crazy shootout games that are 50-something to 50-something, but within those, there's multiple interceptions, there's sacks, there's big tackles for loss, there's third down stops. There's big plays defensively in there.
I think we can both agree that UCF deserved to get a shot this year, and the playoff, no matter what it takes, whether it's simply just expanding to 8 teams and increasing, or at least throwing out a token, G5 auto bid, or if it's implementing a more objective system that basically only incorporates wins, like I think you kind of want to do. I think we both agree it can need change, and I think we could argue in circles about this the entire show, maybe even 2 or 3 shows if we really wanted to.
Something else that's interesting, just getting some new information here. ESPN had Central Florida at 9th under the BCS formula. At 9. So you're right. I mean, like you mentioned, BCS wasn't perfect.
I do think the playoffs is a step up over the BCS, 100%. But it's not perfect, and it needs to change again. And like I said, I think us and I think a lot of people can agree with that. And I think it needs to.
8 teams is probably the logical next step forward. I'm just saying it could be tough to, again, I don't know if they had UCF at 12. That's 4 outside of the.
It's like what you said. They need objective rankings. They need auto bids.
Yeah.
Something like that. It will be the next step. I can probably guarantee within the next few years they switch to an 8-team playoff. It's more money, and you know what? You know what college football loves? Money. The NCAA loves its money.
This is true. Yeah, we will get into that whole student athlete thing another time. But
yes.
Hey, you know what? UCF, 2017 national champs.
Yeah, exactly. They're the champions. Buy the shirt. Maybe not. They blocked Nebraska transfer. So maybe we don't like them anymore. But
they're okay.
We're going to talk. We're going to take a quick break here. Then after we come back, we're going to talk about a couple highlights that each of us had from bowl season in its entirety. We'll be right back in about a minute, so stay tuned for more of the Second String.
Months or in a few years, gaining hands-on experience in your field of interest is a must. While a college degree is a fruitful step towards acquiring a top-tier career, today's employers are looking for college grads that already have some experience under their belt. Here at Husker HireLink, we're here to ensure that you're the person they're looking for. By simply uploading your current resume and skills, we can connect you with hundreds of employers seeking to hire college students to fill their intern, part-time, and full-time positions. Log on to HuskerHireLink.com today to get started.
Air, fundamental to all living things, and it's all thanks to trees. Not only do trees supply oxygen, they also provide homes to wildlife, filter water, and let's not forget their natural beauty. But the trees need your help. The Nebraska Arbor Day Foundation is doing their part to revitalize forests across the country, and you can help. Donate to the Nebraska Arbor Day Foundation today by visiting www.arborday.org. Be that breath of fresh air and ensure forests live on for future generations.
All right, Nate Muehlbach, Alex Fernando, back to you again for more of the Second String. Now, for this segment, I think we just kind of wanted to do a general recap and sort of what were our highlights of the playoff picture, or not the playoff picture, the bowl season in general. Alex, why don't you start us off?
A lot of great bowl games. I enjoyed watching them all. I also enjoyed beating you yet again for the second consecutive year in our bowl predictions.
What was the final score? I think you beat me by a couple.
I think it was. I got a 4-game lead on you at the end.
Okay.
I can't remember exactly.
I stumbled real. I think in the last 3 days I went 1-6.
Yeah, I was very happy with the final finishing of our bowl predictions, but some big highlights that I wanted to mention that I saw our bowl season. First of all, I was lucky enough to go and witness the Tax Slayer Bowl down in Jacksonville in person. Family vacation down there. My uncle and I are like, hey, let's go see Lamar Jackson play football. Why not? Heisman winner. This should be a good game. It was a great game. It was really fun to analyze, just kind of sit back. I didn't have a big weight on either team. I actually picked Louisville, but Mississippi State with a great win there. But it was just fun to sit back and watch, analyze the teams, analyze the X's and O's and what they were doing. But let me just say, first of all, Jim Moorhead coming in from Penn State to be Mississippi State's next head coach. He's got a lot in the cabinet with Caton Thompson as quarterback. Redshirt freshman, took over for the injured Nick Fitzgerald. If Nick Fitzgerald can't quite come back or after Nick Fitzgerald is done, Thompson is a phenomenal athlete. Led the team with 147 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. Not the best day passing, 127 and a pick, but still just he's got to develop. Switching over to Louisville, Lamar Jackson, he's going on to the NFL now. Not the best passer, really struggled throwing the ball, had 4 interceptions. One of them was through his receiver's hands. A lot of them, throughout the game, we just saw him sail it high. Incredible runner. Oh my goodness. I don't think I've ever seen an athlete quite like him running the ball. Maybe Amir Abdullah, but Lamar Jackson live is incredible.
I bet. That sounds like a great experience.
There was a couple plays. One of them was his first touchdown run, sweeping out on a rollout to the right. He's about to get hit for a 5-yard loss. Quick little shimmy, jukes the guy out, jumps between 2 defenders and into the end zone. Should have been a 5-yard loss, turns into a touchdown. The next one that I want to talk about was even more impressive. There's one point in the game, he was about to be sacked for an 8-yard loss. He has a defensive lineman on his back, and Lamar Jackson's bent over like the number 7.
Yeah.
Shakes him off, turns it into a 2-yard gain after juking out 2 other D linemen and his offensive line in the backfield. Absolutely unreal. That was just fun to watch.
I'm sure.
Really great game. A lot of turnovers, kind of back and forth. Came down to a Hail Mary at the end of it. Mississippi State tipped it away. 31-27, a good finish for the Bulldogs.
That's incredible. I've never been to a bowl game before. It's on kind of my sports bucket list.
For sure.
But I think it would be incredible to go to one at some point in time.
Well, Scott Frost will be taking us to some pretty soon, so we can go down for some of those.
Ooh, that's some confidence. That's some confidence after this season. Now, I'm glad that you mentioned that. Now, my highlight, it's really tame. It really is. It's a very tame highlight, but that's Oklahoma State winning their bowl game over Virginia Tech.
Goodness.
Very comfortably. The final score was 30-21, but they had a 27-14 lead since the middle of the third quarter.
They played well.
They did. They played really well. It reminds me of when they came in and thwomped Colorado last year. Is when they just came in and kind of just corralled the Virginia Tech team. Justice Hill is an incredible athlete. He is someone who I'm very excited to watch for probably the next year.
Yeah.
I assume he's probably going to go to the draft early, as I would advise him to do.
He's only a sophomore, but incredible runner. I remember watching his game. My mom was asking me, like, how old is this kid? I'm like, he's only a sophomore. And she's like, really? He's going to be around for another couple of years? I'm like, yeah, he's going to do some damage.
And it's just nice to watch this. I watched Oklahoma State fairly recently. All my family's from there. My grandfather played, basketball and baseball there. I just, follow Oklahoma State sports.
Family ties.
Family ties, My mom went there to school there, so she's a big Oklahoma State fan. And, to see them, win and to see, people in your family are happy when, teams they enjoy watching win. And, I just, call me sappy, but I just enjoy that. And, they had a good season, and it's the last time we're ever going to see Mason Rudolph and, James Washington and Ayton.
That was one intense duo right there. I mean, you long bombed that all day.
Probably the best quarterback receiver duo in the entire NCAA. And
this year, arguably, I would say so.
Yes,
for sure.
and you don't see that good of QB wide receiver tandem too often in college football, and it's just very exciting to get to watch them one last time and really just kind of take control of a game. Their defense kind of stepped up a bit, which is what was plaguing them a lot earlier in the year in losses to Kansas State and Oklahoma. So
definitely.
It was just really nice to see them get a win.
A couple little fun things I wanted to mention after watching bowl season. First of all, in the Penn State-Washington game, I don't know if you saw this, Penn State won 35-28. Kind of gave up their big lead after halftime and stuff. Offense got a little pedestrian second half, but best part of the game was Jake Browning rolling out to his left one play. It was in the second half, trying to make a comeback. Penn State's pressuring him, so he throws the ball away over to the sideline. Right to the Nittany Lion mascot. Lowers his hands, or paws, I guess, lowers his paws. Makes a catch right above the ground. Clean catch. Ball didn't hit the turf. I don't know. I thought that was really funny.
It was a nice highlight. I saw that on YouTube.
The Nittany Lion mascot starts jumping up and down like he caught it. They show the replay everywhere. So big catch by the Nittany Lion mascot, So that was pretty cool. This one we were talking a little bit about before the show, but I'm not a fan of this one. And you can give me your 2 cents, but during the Texas-Missouri game, Drew Lock, the Missouri quarterback, throws a big, huge touchdown pass, does a little celebration dance, nothing crazy, just like little arm jabs in front of his chest or whatever. And then later in the game, Texas gets a pick, and then the next play or next ensuing drive, they score a touchdown, and everybody on Texas' sideline is celebrating. When I say everybody, I mean even their head coach, Tom Herman, is celebrating and mocking Drew Lock with his fake little dance. I don't like that. As a head football coach, especially of another team, there's no reason to be disrespectful towards a student athlete of another team.
Am I being too bad a bad person by saying I didn't hate it? I'm gonna preface this with he shouldn't have done it. Objectively, he should not have done it.
Definitely should not have done it. But
am I a bad person to say that? Honestly, I don't care.
I don't know.
If he was having fun with his team.
Yes, but
the other guy threw a celebration when they weren't even winning.
This is true, but hey, Drew Lock was kind of early in the game. They were making a comeback and stuff. This is at the end of the game, a minute 30 left. Tom Herman's dancing on the sideline, mocking Drew Lock. As a professional, you should not be mocking another team, let alone another student athlete.
I agree with you. Objectively, like I said, he should not have done that. There is no question about it. He shouldn't have done it. I cannot muster up the energy to truly care.
I care about neither of these. It's Texas and Missouri. That's like that's the most disgusting matchup I've ever seen as a Husker fan. But I don't care at what level you're at. If you're gonna be a head football coach, you're gonna try to be a leader for these student athletes and these guys on your team. And
yeah, okay, I agree.
Be a
with you.
role model for them.
He shouldn't have done it.
I did not think that was very tasteful.
He should not have done it for sure.
Do you have any other big highlights?
There aren't big highlights. It's kind of like you. I had a negative highlight or two.
Negative, okay.
There are more negatives for me. The first one is trusting Washington State again. I did this last year in our bowl pick'em. I picked Washington State over a hard-hitting defensive Big Ten team, and they got whomped by Minnesota. And this year, they played Michigan State. I said, you know what? This has the potential of being exactly like last year. But I said, I'm not going to worry about it. I think it'll be different. And no, it was exactly the same, only worse.
See, Nate, I learned from my mistakes. I picked Wazoo last year to beat Minnesota. Didn't work. I picked Wazoo as my dark horse this year. Didn't work. I picked them to beat Washington, go to the Pac-12 championship, and salvage their season. Didn't work. I picked Michigan State in the bowl game, and it worked.
Fourth time's the charm, I suppose. The second one for me is another getting dunked on. The Purdue and Arizona game. I thought
Boiler up.
I thought Khalil Tate was gonna just
boiler up.
Purdue wasn't that impressive in any phase of the game, and I thought Khalil Tate was just gonna go in there and wreck it. And to Purdue's credit, he did not. He executed. I sent you a text at 12:30 at night talking about how Khalil Tate executed the worst 2-minute drill I've ever seen in my life, complete with literally just throwing a Purdue player the interception on 4th and 3 to seal the game. I was incredibly frustrated. I went to bed really upset, especially since I think that was just about the time where my bowl predictions went south.
Kind of tanked. You're right, but this kind of plays into what one of my highlights, the Big Ten.
Oh, yes.
The Big Ten. One loss in Michigan. See, I woke up on New Year's Day, and my uncle and I were going to go down to Orlando because he wanted to go see the Notre Dame game. He's a huge Notre Dame fan, which incredible finish, by the way. That one-handed catch down the sideline.
Did you go to that one?
I didn't go to the game. I went and hung out with a friend, and we watched the UCF game.
Your uncle did.
My uncle, he went to the game, and we watched the final play for the Notre Dame with that one-handed catch. Insane.
Oh, it was nice.
But so we woke up, and on our drive down to Orlando, he looks at me and he's like, all right, we got a win-win situation here. If Michigan beats South Carolina, Big Ten goes undefeated, we can talk all the smack we want as Big Ten conference and kind of rock the college football world a little bit. We have another win situation because if Michigan loses, we get to make more fun of Jim Harbaugh. And that's exactly what we got. Michigan they had a 19-3 lead at halftime.
when your quarterback's as bad as Michigan's quarterback, it's hard.
Quarterbacks. All their quarterbacks are bad.
It's hard, and they're trying so hard to get Shea Patterson to waive the transfer rules, and it will be
5 second-half turnovers, though. It's funny because we can't even blame Jim Harbaugh for that, but people are still going to rip him. They're still ripping him for that.
I mean, and when you're a coach and when you have the mentality of Jim Harbaugh, you take the lumps with the successes. When you act the way he does, when you win, you look like a genius. When you lose, you look like one.
Look like a fool.
You look like a fool. That's a good, very PG way to put it. But
jumping back just to the Big Ten overall, a lot of people say, "Oh wow, one loss." I think it was 7-1 record for the conference. Why aren't they in the playoff? I made this statement earlier in the year that Big Ten would not make a team in the playoff, and I think this record speaks to that, because if you look at the Big Ten playing all these different conferences, playing all these different teams in the bowls, and winning all but one of them, it shows that the strength is within the conference.
Yeah.
So when you are in conference and you're playing all these different teams and you're losing to conference opponents, Ohio State losing to Iowa, that was just a crazy one. And that one's usually don't lose to Iowa by 31 unless you're Nebraska. But I mean, Michigan State beating Penn State.
Yep.
Penn State or Ohio State edging out Penn State. Ohio State beating Wisconsin. All those big conference games between each other. Michigan State beating Michigan again. Like all that kind of stuff. That just shows the strength of the conference. And it proves that the Big Ten is one of the tougher conferences, because you can't even make it out alive in the Big Ten and make it to the playoff because we all beat each other. It's so tough in conference. And then we get out of conference and we demolish people in the bowl games. So I don't think that requires a Big Ten team to go into the playoffs just because we're 7-1. That just means we do actually have a tough conference, and people need to stop saying that SEC is the best. SEC is 3 teams: Auburn, Bama, and Georgia. LSU on a good year, but LSU's kind of in the medium range.
I suppose.
You put Mississippi State and LSU in the medium range, and then everybody else down the bottom. That's the SEC.
I guess. I think they're very similar conferences, to be honest.
There's always like those 3 or 4 primary teams, but
yeah.
Again, top to bottom, Big Ten, they beat each other within conference play a lot more than the SEC does. Auburn, their only conference loss was in the championship, or to LSU and in the championship.
This year, for sure, more than the SEC, but still, I think they're very comparable conferences. And to say that, like, oh, Big Ten definitely better than the SEC, I think, especially after the All SEC championship game, is a little. Speaking.
I'm not
forward.
saying that. I'm just saying, separate from that, the Big Ten is strong. And
it is strong.
This whole SEC conference is the best kind of thing. That needs to die, because you don't. If a conference is that strong, you shouldn't have a team in the playoffs, technically.
Yeah, but like we said, 18 playoffs. This is why we need it.
Yeah.
Ohio State probably deserved to be in the playoffs too.
Yeah.
But
couple last things, little highlights of bowl games. I want to congratulate New Mexico State.
yes,
Right? You picked that one right,
I did.
too.
I
was wrong.
I did pick New Mexico State. I said, you know what? I'm gonna pick a feel good. It's their first bowl win ever.
62 years?
60 ever?
Yeah.
62 years?
No, they've had one before, but they lost.
I'm gonna say ever. If it's 62 years ago, I'm just gonna say it's their first bowl win forever. 62 years ago. That's an entirely different game they're playing.
Another thing I want to just say was incredibly impressive fact that I learned in the Rose Bowl, Oklahoma Georgia, crazy game. But when Oklahoma forced a fumble and ran it back for a touchdown in the second half, that was Georgia's first fumble on a run play all season.
Crazy.
That is insane.
That's nuts.
One fumble, and it comes into the second to last game of the season.
That's crazy.
Absolutely
That is
nuts.
crazy. Yeah, it was just an excellent bowl season. Makes me sad college football's going away for a while. But we got a lot of things to tide everybody over.
I want one more thing. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's college football, Nate. You can't take it away from me that quickly. Last thing, though, and this kind of terrifies me as a Husker fan, Alex Hornibrook. Remember the Wisconsin-Miami game? That's a while ago, but
Yeah.
23 of 34, 258 yards, and 4 touchdowns.
I call that.
Where did that come from?
Who knows, man?
When did he learn how to pass?
Bad quarterbacks may have good games all the time. And I'm not even saying Alex Hornibrook's a terrible quarterback. He can definitely improve.
He's just
to the
not
level.
he's not a great passer, but all season, like I've been watching this dude make just not good throws, straight up bad throws. And he comes into Miami, a very tough defense, very tough, great at causing turnovers. And he's threading the needle. He's throwing it between 2-3 guys at a time. I was just shocked. As a Husker fan, I'm like, crap. Now, he's only a sophomore. We got to deal with this guy for 2 more years because it's Wisconsin. It's not like he's going to leave as a quarterback to go drafting.
No.
So we got to deal with this guy for 2 more years, and he's getting a lot better, a lot faster than I thought he would. That was a great performance by him. So kudos to him because I'd been trashing him all year. He impressed me.
He did. All right. We are going to take another quick break, about a minute or so. When we come back, we're going to be discussing the NFL games that have happened the past weekend. Just kind of seeing what's been going on, what's happening, what it looks like next weekend. And that'll be just our final segment. So stay tuned for some more KRNU with Nate Milbuck and Alex Fernando. Stay tuned.
What are you still doing with all those old t-shirts that don't even fit anymore? Why not get rid of them by donating them to Goodwill of Lincoln? Goodwill of Lincoln is a not-for-profit organization that takes nearly any household item and item of clothing. Its main mission is willing workers employed and community resources maximized. Goodwill also provides a safe environment for people with mental, physical, and emotional disabilities to be employed. So what are you still doing with those t-shirts? Your freshman 15 is less noticeable in a slightly bigger shirt anyway. Donate the small ones to Goodwill of Lincoln. To contact Goodwill of Lincoln, go to lincolngoodwill.org.
Check out my new time machine.
Does it work?
Hit the button.
Hey, it's Napoleon.
Oui. Check out the future.
Hey, you have a nice house. Why don't I?
You didn't save any money, buddy.
If only there was a way I could go back in time and fix that.
Yeah.
Save something for the future. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
All righty. We are back with more Second String with Nate Milbuck, Alex Fernando. Why don't we talk the other side of football?
The National Football League, Nate, the NFL, the pros, the big time.
It's interesting. This is kind of our first major time talking about this. We've devoted maybe a little bit in the past, but this is
we had a couple score updates.
Yeah,
but a couple of our
this
shows,
is the first time we're ever talking about this in depth.
What better time to talk about than now? The playoffs, insane playoff race going on right now.
It's been a good playoffs for
yesterday.
sure.
Yesterday was just crazy altogether. But
yesterday was nuts, dude.
Let's start with Saturday.
Okay.
Keep it tame. Falcons and Eagles. Eagles come away with a 15-10 victory. But I don't know. I used to like the Eagles when I was a little kid. I still definitely don't mind them, and I like watching them and stuff. My worst, and I'm a huge Carson Wentz fan from watching him in college. But my worst fear, as a football fan, especially as an Eagles fan or former Eagles fan, whatever, is coming true. Their offense without Wentz is going downhill. It's going downhill fast.
That's to be expected, isn't it?
Yeah. And
like Nick Foles is not a good quarterback.
I wouldn't say he's bad though. He was 23 of 30, 246 yards. He didn't play bad by any means. It's just overall their offense is not producing nearly as much.
No.
So I'm not going to go out and just trash Nick Foles. He's definitely no Carson Wentz. There's a reason Wentz is the starter and Wentz got him to a great season. But overall, the Eagles just their rhythm on offense is different. That's just to be expected with a new quarterback coming in. But they're off their pace. They're moving the ball a little bit, but they're not scoring nearly as much. Tons of field goals is all I see. Which luckily they have a good kicker in Jake Elliott, but just a lot not very efficient. Not a lot moving on moving with their offense.
No.
They're hitting walls too often and going into the divisional championship.
It's going to come to a head, but I think this game was defined more by the losing team than by the winning team, in all honesty.
Matty Ice?
Have you seen a more poorly coached NFL team than the 2017 Falcons? They are awful.
That's a good point.
Good old Steve Sarkisian coming in fresh from that Alabama stint. Apparently, Saban taught him nothing because...
Sarkisian? No, he was the USC.
No, he was the Alabama OC. He was an offensive analyst. And then when Kiffin got the boot...
He was... okay, that's right. He went from USC to Bama and then... Right?
Yeah. And then when Kiffin got the boot in the playoffs, he was their OC for the national title game.
That's right.
Which is kind of nuts when you think about it. but he went to the Falcons job, and he has
Okay.
looked
Yep.
awful. Especially, did you see their last offensive play that they ran?
I didn't. I didn't get to catch much of this game.
Well, it was a rollout. They rolled Matt Ryan out to the right.
Rolling out Matty Ice.
Yeah, one of the best pocket passers in the NFL. They rolled him out.
Good plan.
They basically
Good plan right
cutting
away.
off half the field because in Madden you can throw back backfield on the run.
40
real
yards.
life, not so much. So they basically cut off half the field, and they threw a pass to their fullback on 4th down. Oh yeah.
Not the play I would run.
Well, I think it was probably supposed to go to Julio,
Julio.
but he fell down, so they threw it to their fullback, and he,
I
did fullback
think
things.
overall, looking at the season, you're right though. This Falcons team, their offense was unstoppable last year.
Yes.
I mean, Matty Ice, MVP. And coming into this season, they have the weapons. Coleman, Freeman, Julio Jones, Mohamed Sanu. If anything, you should just put Sanu at quarterback because dude will just throw 50-yard touchdown bombs. But, Matt Ryan, solid playoff quarterback. He made it to a Super Bowl. He's kind of got the experience now. But you're right. This offense was merely pedestrian compared to last season. And I think that's something that will definitely need to be addressed as they move forward and want to get back to a Super Bowl level team.
Yeah, exactly. Now let's move on to the Titans-Patriots. I don't really want to talk about this too much.
No.
I don't care. The
This
Patriots are good. Tom Brady's the GOAT. Bill Belichick's also the GOAT.
This was frustrating to watch.
The Titans stink. Mike Mularkey declined his extension, quote unquote, aka the Titans told him to pack his bags. I don't blame him. Mike Mularkey was a terrible coach. He wanted to ground pound it. Marcus Mariota regressed every single season under the Titans' watch. It was uncomfortable to watch them flounder, but entirely expected against the best team in the National
Mariota
Football League.
last week, though, against the Chiefs, throwing a pass to himself and throwing a block. I don't know. I was just impressed by that last week. I definitely want to throw that
You want to
out
know?
there.
You know the rumor is that the head coach told Mariota to call his own plays. Just call what he ran on Oregon's.
I wouldn't
Oregon's
doubt it. I
playbook.
mean, why not? Let the dude take over.
So, yeah, Mike Mularkey gone for Tennessee. Titans fans rejoice around the nation. They got the cool playoff win, and their coach got canned. I'm sure there's not much that could have gone better this season
Patriots,
for them.
same old, same old.
How about the Jags-Steelers?
The mighty Jags, Nate. Dark horse Super Bowl.
Don't
Dark
even
horse
talk
Super
about
Bowl
this.
champs. I'm telling you.
Stop it.
Hey, they were my fantasy defense all year, and they were great,
Except for
the playoffs. But not the issue. Jaguars, the
start
real
them?
Jaguars in the playoffs. They didn't know in the playoffs they were actually my highest scoring team,
Okay.
or highest scoring team member in the playoffs
I
for
see, I
fantasy.
see.
But the real Jaguars in the real playoffs,
not
shocker. Like
How about
Where-
the Bortles?
QB legend.
No.
How many losses in the playoff does Blake Bortles have, Nate?
I'm not dignifying
How
this with
many
the answer,
losses?
by the way.
Blake Bortles has 0 playoff losses as a starter.
I'm going to talk to the audience and not to Alex. I'm just going to tell you that Blake Bortles is not good enough to take his team to the playoffs almost ever, so that's why he has 0 losses. And he's going to pick up one next week.
I don't know. Tom Brady, he has 9 playoff losses.
He also has 17 more playoff wins than anybody else in history.
I'm
So
just saying, watch out for the Jaguars. Their defense is very tricky. Brady, I don't think they play the Patriots this year.
No,
so Brady
they
has
did not.
Brady's not faced them this year. The Jaguars are a very sneaky team just because of that defense. Fournette is a monster too. You have Leonard Fournette running at you. You don't tackle him. You just cry.
yes. All right, let's talk about the last game.
The game.
The game. Saints Vikings.
2009 or
wish
2017.
I wish it was 2009.
Oh my! So we have so many friends that are gonna hurt you now. Big.
No,
big win for the Vikings.
not in terms of sports, just in terms of years.
Oh, let's send your life problems somewhere else. We're talking about football here, Nate. Vikings coming away 29-24 on an insane finish. Insane.
I mean, I think everybody, who is even remotely interested in the NFL has seen the Hail Mary from Case Keenum to Stephon Diggs. It was kind of absurd. I don't really know how to process what happened.
Well, first of all, it looked like the inevitable was about to happen, and the Vikings choke yet again. And just they had a 17-0 lead with a minute 30 left in the game. or 2:30 left in the game. Or sorry, 2:30 left in the third quarter. My bad. 2:30 left in the third quarter, something like that. Saints score. All right, it's 17-7. We're okay.
Yep.
Saints score again. All right, 17-14. Let's start doing something. Second half offensive play calling for the Vikings was horrible.
It was bad.
Absolutely horrible. Saints come. They get a lead. Vikings take the lead back. And this is where I got really scared because the Vikings take the 23-21 lead, and they hand Drew Brees the ball with a timeout and 1:29 on the clock.
Yes.
There's a handful of quarterbacks in the league that I would never want to do that to, and Drew Brees is in that handful.
Yes.
And they're like, Drew Brees, here's the ball, here's a timeout, and 1:29 seconds. Have fun. He goes down. They get a 24-23 lead, and the Vikings are like, we're done. This isn't good.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. It was.
And they would have been done. They would have been done had it not been for what was it?
Marcus Peters.
Mike.
It was Marcus Peters.
Marcus Peters. Okay, is that
rookie cornerback for the Saints? Rookie safety. For the Saints.
Okay.
Played pretty good the rest of the game.
Marcus Williams.
I thought it was Marcus Peters.
No, that's the Chiefs DB.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You're right. You're right.
So Marcus Williams, safety for the Saints.
Revoke my NFL card.
Yeah. Marcus Williams, safety for the Saints. I'm sorry, but I know he's a rookie. But if he was making that kind of play in college, he should not have been drafted.
He played good the rest of the game. He had the pick.
He played well through the rest of the game.
Stop.
Learn English.
Do not do this to me.
He played well. I don't care. When it is crunch time,
don't make me.
You got to make the plays. I don't think this dude should be let on the team bus.
I can't believe you.
I'm not saying that he lost them the game because the Saints had numerous other times to win it, and they had no points first half and stuff like that. But the way he finished that game and what he did I don't even want to call it a tackle or an attempt at a tackle because he just dove into the turf and took out his own player.
It was bad. It was really bad.
I learned in third grade you don't put your head down and roll into a ball to tackle somebody. I learned that in third grade, Nate.
Everybody has goofs.
Everybody. In playoffs, though?
Yes.
You're a rookie starting for a team.
You have goofs. You don't cut him. You say you messed up. You messed up real bad.
Okay, I'm probably a little over the top with the cutting. That's probably a little harsh.
I know you're saying this, as a joke.
Facetiously, yes.
Facetiously, but
I still think that this dude needs to go to a Ray Lewis tackling camp or something.
He
learn
does.
to tackle.
He does.
Because I learned in third grade, you do not drop your head and roll into a ball. First of all you had to do was stand there, let him catch it, and then tackle him on the ground. Let him catch it. That's fine. And then just wrap him up right there.
Still, yeah.
You can sit there and wait for him. You
let him land, and you wait, and then the clock runs out, and you win. That's what you do. He did the bad. He did the wrong thing.
He did the bad thing.
He did the bad. He did a bad for sure.
But incredible finish. Vikings moving on.
Yeah, I know. Shout out to our friend Bailey who was there at the game.
Man, her first Vikings game, she was ecstatic.
I was texting her afterwards. She was happy.
She was going ballistic, I'm sure. Vikings Nation was.
I'm sure.
All those, I saw on social media so many different videos of all the ups and downs of those last few minutes. It was crazy.
I'm sure.
Stephon Diggs, great catch, would stay in bounds and keep his balance.
Mm-hmm.
He falls down, game's over. He steps out of bounds, you got to rely on Forbath for a kick.
Yeah.
He stays in balance, realizes there's nobody near him, and he's gone. Great play, great finish to the game, and I think this is setting up great NFC, great AFC championship. I'm telling you, watch the Jags. Dark horse, man. Dark horse.
No.
That defense is scary.
I'm not dignifying that with the response.
Brady hasn't faced a defense like this all season.
Okay.
Just be ready. And then Eagles and Vikings, again.
Don't count out.
I don't want to count out the Eagles. They need to get some sort of production on offense. Vikings are tough to move against on defense.
For sure.
We got a good weekend coming up.
For sure. All right. Well, that will do it for us. It is the hour winding down incredibly fast. What a great show to be back on.
Oh, good start. I can't wait. We got a long semester, a lot of things to talk about ahead. For Nate Milbach, I'm Alex Fernando. Thank you again for tuning into the Second String. We'll be coming at you live from KRNU2 on Monday nights at 7 for this semester. Let's go. Go Big Red.
Hey, have a good one, guys.